Well, hello, good evening, and thank you for joining us. For those who have joined us for tonight's live YouTube with myself, Greg Tomlinson. I'm one of the board members of the Trust, joined today by Thomas Concannon, who is also one of the fellow board members, and our special guest today as well, Chi Onwurah, MP for Newcastle Central, the constituency of St James's Park, as you all know, and a fine voice in standing up for Newcastle United supporters, has been able to join us today. So a little bit about the technology here. First time I'm using it, so hopefully it won't go wrong. Comments below, and they should come through, and then we can answer your questions. So yeah, please do get your questions coming in. But first of all, actually just like to welcome Chi, and over to you. You've had quite a bit to say on the takeover and the Premier League's behaviour or silence, and just to talk a little bit about your petition, really. First off, yeah.
Thanks very much, Greg, and just want to start by saying thank you to Newcastle United Supporters Trust. Thanks for everything you do, and particularly for organising this and just giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about the petition. I do also want to say that I think we've got to recognise how far we've come, if you like, and the fact that I might sound a bit overly. I'm not saying I'm grateful to the Premier League. I would never say that, but I do think that the fact that it came to me, but it was really for Newcastle United supporters, got a response out of the Premier League is quite something. In response to the letter that I wrote to them, and that would not have happened. Believe me, that would not have happened had fans not been so active on social media, writing to their MPs, everything, everything that you're doing. So it's the letter to me, I think, reflects the passion of fans more broadly. And when it comes to the petition, the response from the Premier League was good to get it, but I didn't feel it clarified. It didn't give the accountability, the transparency, and the clarity that we want. And the petition was inspired by the petition that I think it's Sean who had put on change.org. Which got 110,000 signatures, and that was another example of how passionate people felt. But I wanted to do something when I go back to Parliament. I'm the MP for St James's Park. I'm the MP for lots of fans. I have had lots and lots of emails and contacts about this. I wanted to keep the pressure on, and as an MP, I have the right to petition Parliament on behalf of my constituents. And it does, you do have to use some. If you've seen the petition on my website, it's quite old-fashioned language, if you like, and there's quite a lot of sort of legalistic and formal requirements. But what it does mean is that I get to say that petition out loud in Parliament, and I can say, and this reflects, the signatures of X thousand. Already we have 15,000, and it requires a response from the government. And for me, that's the most most important, because I do think we need to. I know the Premier League, meeting with the Premier League, keep the pressure on the Premier League. But that's also about keeping the pressure on the government. So the government has to respond to that petition that I raise, and it also can lead, if the petitions committee or process recommend it, it can lead to a scrutiny by the select committee, and it is the select committee that has the power to demand that the Premier League come to Parliament and answer questions. The select committee, and it can also lead to a parliamentary debate. So it's about keeping the pressure on, and what I'm just saying is that for me, it has to be about fans' voices. I'm the voice of Newcastle Central in Parliament, and Newcastle United Supporters Trust is part of the voice of Newcastle United fans, and I don't feel that fans' voices have enough say in the process of takeovers and in the choosing of who runs Newcastle United. And generally Premier Leagues, it's about the money, it's about the billionaires, it's not about the fans. And so that's why I'm very passionate about it, as well as being a Newcastle United supporter. So I'm just trying to amplify the voice of my constituents who are fans of Newcastle United. And I think that the petition, this additional petition, I know it's another petition to sign, but that is a way to keep the pressure on and make sure we get some kind of response from government.
That's really useful, and we've thank you very much for that really good summary there. So we've put a link there. You should be able to see on the screen to sign the petition. I think you said 15,000 already. You know, so yeah, so absolutely, yeah. Get on there and get that signed, and we can keep going with this. You know, various people have been coming together. I think we managed to get over 100 MPs writing in, saying that asking for questions. Pretty much every MP in the Northeast, whether red or blue, actually wrote in as well. So it's been a remarkable few weeks in terms of the fans coming together, really to try and demand answers from the Premier League in terms of that clarity.
Greg, I think that the Prime Minister, and obviously, I'm not a fan of Boris Johnson anyway, but the fact that the Prime Minister intervened is a real tribute to fans coming together. The fact that he had something to say about that in the middle of a pandemic as well is a real tribute. So, that is your hard work.
Yeah, that's the hard work of all the Newcastle fans. So yeah, it's been quite amazing to see. And then on Wednesday this week, Thomas, you met with the Premier League. And the meeting there with Richard Masters and co and the FSA. So just I guess a first question for you, Thomas. Really, how was it? How did it feel? What did it feel like when you got up in the morning, knowing that you were going to speak on behalf of what now is for the trust 14,000 members, and standing up for Newcastle fans into that process?
I didn't get up that morning because I didn't go to bed the night before. I was a little bit nervous. It was a big thing, but at the same time quite excited to be given the opportunity. So yeah, a lot of work went in, as you know, Greg, from the board. We were meeting pretty much every single night to prepare for the meeting. It was just really, really great to be given the opportunity from the FSA. It was them that actually put it together for us. Got the item on the agenda, which we requested, which was brilliant. So it was a very important step for the trust, for Newcastle fans as a whole, to be actually given that opportunity to speak directly to the Premier League on these issues. And yeah, like I say, I was just grateful to be given the opportunity to represent the trust and represent the members and represent Newcastle fans as a whole.
No, that's excellent, and so that's why we're here tonight, really, with the Q&A. So if you do have your questions, do pop them in below or to the side, and they'll come through. One of the recurring themes that keeps coming through actually is a question around questions you didn't ask. And I guess obviously we went into that meeting with the item on the agenda in 15 minutes, and we as a board, we met almost every day, I think it was, in the last two weeks, pretty much, gearing up for this and the work that we've been doing. And in 15 minutes, I guess there's only so much you can ask when we could probably ask questions for hours on this subject, really, couldn't we? One of the ones that keeps coming in is why didn't you ask about the assurances that we're led to believe that were provided to the Premier League by the bidders in terms of that independence point? Can you enlighten the viewers as to why that one wasn't on the ones that you asked?
Mm-hmm. To start with, first of all, the agenda was moved to the very first point, which it wasn't meant to be, which took me by surprise, but it was welcome. I think it showed the importance of the agenda item. With regards to that in particular question, it was something that was touched upon in the opening statement by Richard Masters, with regards to the confidentiality of the process, which we expected, that would come into play. But it was pretty much an assurance that from all of the information that was made available, they didn't believe that from the information that they had, that to make a decision in favour of the takeover, they as it's been well publicised, they thought it was from the information they had available that they didn't believe. That's probably in my the way that I've understood it, that they didn't believe that who they were saying would have control of the club would actually have control of the club. So that's where the sticking point came in.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, and then in 15 minutes you'll effectively be asking the same question again when he's already given that introduction. So you've got to pick your questions when you've only got 15-20 minutes, don't you?
It's difficult, because especially I was definitely clock watching in anticipation that I only had 15 minutes. It went on a little bit longer, but I took from that straight away that, you know, they implied they had the information, but from my point of view, it still wasn't enough. So, you know, we are where we are. The Premier League have made their mind up, and it's up to everyone else now as to where we go from here.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we've been quite clear in the emails that we sent out at the end of this week. You know, as we just talked about there, the fans have come together and, you know, really, you know, put the pressure on in terms of the transparency and understanding what's gone on here 18, 19 weeks now. And, you know, from my perspective, and I think, you know, I think I speak for the board when we say that, you know, as the fans, we've done a lot really here now. You know, not just talking just as a supporters trust, you know, every single one of us as you know, simple fans of Newcastle United, with 110,000 people signing that petition that's led to G sending the Formula One through Parliament. You know, now, you know, let's be honest, it's over to really, we've done our bit as supporters. Now we need to see action from the millionaires, the billionaires, you know, and the corporations, because we quite often find ourselves, football fans, as the people most impacted and affected by certain things that go on and with the Premier League, etc. And often we have the least influence. So it's great that we've managed to get the Premier League to come and speak, and that letter that you got, Chi, was a first step. And then Thomas, you being able to get in the room with Richard Masters was you know, a real big bonus and a real step forward now. But, you know, I'm not really sure what we can do now, really, other than, you know, keep on with the petition and keep on asking for that transparency. But fundamentally, we can't answer the questions here. And one of the things that I think you said did come out was, you know, the point that, you know, Newcastle United have said nothing for a very long time, not just on the takeover. They say very little on anything.
Well, I actually made that point. I said Richard Masters was saying that, you know, they've been talking to the club throughout, and I said, well, at least you have, because they don't talk to us. You know, so it was just, you're totally right, Greg, and you know, from what she was saying before, we're in a position where the pressure from fans now just needs to be put on the whole transparency around the whole thing. You know, and we have to keep fighting until that is, you know, in writing, and it's part of the owners and directors test that transparency for fans is, you know, that it's a big part of it. You know, there was a big thing made from Richard Masters. He understood where we actually came from. It was, you know, the point was put forward that this is a massive thing on Tyneside. It's pretty much on the news every single night, and he understood the whole feeling of the fans. It was just, and they were potentially going to look into the owners and directors test anyway, and this was obviously something that they'll take forward and look at. But it's important, vitally important, that we keep that pressure on so that it's part of it.
Yeah, we've got a question here from Dave asking about the honesty of the answers, like, and you know, did Richard Masters come across as, you know, genuine and sincere in your conversation?
I genuinely thought he did. I may get some stick for that, because it's probably not what people want to hear. I thought it was a relatively relaxed conversation. I was gearing up for potentially no comment throughout, and you know, whilst some people aren't happy with the answers, I think we were only going to get so much anyway. I think it's important that we've heard one side of the story. Now we've heard the Premier League side of the story. We're not going to get any more than what we've got right now, in my opinion. So we have to take it as gospel and pass it on to the ones that actually have control now.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, whether people believe that or not going forward, that's up to everyone's own individual opinion. But that was all I was able to get out of them, and that's all I was ever going to be able to get. So I think we just have to take it and move forward. You know.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a question now from Liam asking Chi about your petition, and will it definitely get the answers? Now, I think you've covered this a little bit in your introduction, but could you just remind everyone about the difference between, I guess, the Change.org, which was, you know, magnificent, and the attention that got fantastic, you know, 110,000, and you know, the difference with your petition? You appear to be on mute.
Sorry, I muted myself. So I think it's really important to say that the Change.org petition did get attention, and the fact that it got 100,000 signatures, that gets the attention. I mean, it gets the attention of the Premier League. It also gets the attention of MPs, you know, because those sorts of numbers sort of, you know, are power really. But because it was on change.org, you know, and I think it helped influence MPs to like the 100 MPs that Greg talked about, but it didn't require a response from the government. And so what my petition, you know, it's like it's like an ancient right that MPs have the right to raise issues on behalf of their constituents, and that the government is required to respond. So the difference with my petition will definitely get the attention of the government, because the Department for Culture, Media and Sport will be required to give a response. And then there's this thing called the Petitions Committee, which the response will come to me, and obviously I'll share it and publish it. Then the Petitions Committee will look at that response and see if they think it's enough, it's good enough, and they can recommend further action, such as the Select Committee looking at it, or even, you know, a parliamentary debate. So to answer your question, Liam, it will definitely get the attention of the government, but it is also really matter. You know, if I stand up in Parliament and I say if I set up this petition has been signed by 50 people, it wouldn't get that much attention. Now I can stand up and say this petition has been signed by 15,000 people. Imagine if I could stand up and say it's been signed by 50,000 people. You know, the numbers do matter as well. So, you know, it's about getting government's attention, but also making it clear that this isn't going to go away, that we're not going to forget about it, and that we want the and with the Premier League, I mean, so I've seen them being pretty arrogant in the past. You know, their arrogance needs to be. Their arrogance, they've got the ear of government, they get to meet with government, their arrogance needs to be matched by the strength of the passion of Newcastle United and other fans, because it affects all fans, really, all Premier League fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. We've got a question here from Richard, but we've had a few other people asking similar about the point that came out around no external entities tried to influence the takeover. Could you just clarify what was discussed and said there on that point, Thomas?
Yeah. So, you know, in one of the questions that we raised was about, you know, other people getting involved, mainly other clubs that I think we were more concerned about. I'm just having a quick look at the questions again, because so, you know, it's just one of the questions I asked: did any other clubs have an influence? Because it was reported that Tottenham and Liverpool did. So I asked if any other clubs had any influence on this takeover bid, and he said no. That they don't actively seek other opinions. You know, it's an objective test; it's not a subjective test, and they don't actively seek the opinions of other people. Take that. You know, look into that.
So I think, I think what he's saying there is, you know, we saw lots of people write into this. You know, we as a trust wrote into the Premier League, and I guess what he was saying there was, well, anyone can write to us, but you know, we will make our decision, and that doesn't influence us. You know, that's what he's saying.
That's what I took from it.
You know, what we take from that is for us to take from that, isn't it? Yeah.
This is the difficult. You know, if I steam in and start accusing them, well, no, this is no, you know, I think you're lying and all that sort of stuff, I'm just not going to get anything. I think that's how these things work. I was trying there to get some answers as much as I possibly could, whilst remaining relatively respectful, I would like to think.
I think that's a really important point, actually, because I've read quite a bit on Twitter over the last couple of days around saying that we weren't, as a trust, aggressive enough. But, you know, I can guarantee you now, you know, having been in similar situations in other areas of life, if you go into that meeting calling Richard Masters a liar in your first question, the meeting's over.
Yeah.
And he won't answer a single question.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, to get that on the agenda and to get in there, I think was a real achievement.
I think as well, just after that, you know, I think we all know what the answers would have been anyway had I asked those questions.
Yeah.
It'd be straight back, no comment.
Yeah. We've got an interesting comment here from Heidi Wolf saying about Richard Masters knows that MPs and others are now looking at the Premier League more closely. I think this is something actually that came out on the Zoom, was it last Friday or the week before? The days are merging at the moment. trying to keep up the day job as well. But I think this is a really important point, actually, beyond Newcastle United, that you just touched on, Chi, around governance of football. I think we're going to see real attention here, aren't we? And I think the Premier League will be waking up to this beyond just this takeover, actually, as much as we need answers for this in terms of, we after 13 years of Mike Ashley, we want a football club back that can compete and that isn't just used to advertise a sports shop and aims to just sit there in number 17th in the league. But beyond that, there's a lot of attention on football governance as a whole, isn't there?
Yeah, no, absolutely there is. And again, getting that many signatures on the change.org, that attracts attention. And the fact that the Prime Minister, again, it's not my favorite guy, but the fact that he intervened as well, I'll be frank with you, and I know this is going to go. My experience of the Premier League has been that they're hugely arrogant and did not see a place, for fans in their processes. And I think the fact that I got that letter and that you've got that meeting shows that is changing. They're beginning to recognise that they have to at least pay some attention to fans, and that is absolutely a consequence of all the attention and the MPs' letters, etc. But for me, part of the problem here is in his letter to me, Masters talked about that other clubs didn't have an influence because it was decided by the subcommittee or whatever who reads it. But the fact is that it's the Premier League. It is the owners of the clubs that pay Master's salary effectively and decide that he's in that job. And so obviously that has huge influence. And what I want to see, and what you need to see, if you've got influence, then you need transparency and accountability, but you also need to have fans to have influence as well. And so that's why part of the petition does say, the petition talks about Newcastle United, talks about the takeover, talks about the process, but it also then talks about a fan-led review of football, which is what what was promised in the manifesto, and was something that can really change football. And I think and I hope that the Premier League are paying attention to that.
Yeah, that's going to be a really, really fascinating one to watch moving forward beyond just Newcastle. Yeah,
I think I can chip in on that as well. The Football Supporters Association today released their Sustain the Game campaign as well. Which from a fans organisation, you don't get any bigger than the FSA in this country, and they do some incredible work. And this is just another incredible campaign that hopefully, working with MPs like yourself, Chi, can really force this issue and do what the campaign says to sustain the game. Because whilst we're in the meeting with the Premier League arguing about which billionaire is going to own our football club, there are other football clubs, in dire situations that need a lot of protection. So you're totally right to say that it goes beyond just Newcastle in this. This is across the board. Things need to change quick.
Yeah, and my view is that, speaking as a fan more than an MP, is that money's been driving football for too long now, and it is about billionaires. And given that even like the season ticket money, there's not a significant proportion of revenues. We need to have other ways of making sure that fans have an influence, because without fans, and I say this, but the Premier League look at the billions coming in from broadcasting, but without fans, football doesn't have a cultural identity. It doesn't have a meaning, actually, for me, without the fans.
Oh, I think we've seen that in these games. These lockdown games,
definitely, it's been proven.
And that's actually, going beyond the takeover for a second, that's a bit of a worry in terms of, the new season starting in a few weeks, and there's going to be matches, Premier League matches, Newcastle matches behind closed doors that nobody can watch.
Yeah, this will come out in the.
Nobody can watch.
This will come out in the minutes, obviously, from the rest of the meeting with the Premier League. It wasn't just the Newcastle United takeover. There was five other clubs present as well. Chelsea representatives, Fulham, Tottenham, Liverpool, and Leicester, as well as Newcastle. And it was one of the big things that was argued about. There's a serious concern here, and the data proves it as well, that as soon as a fan switches off from being able to watch his football team or her football team, then it's very, very hard to actually get them back. And you know, and if they can't watch their team throughout the time that we're legally not allowed to go into stadiums, and they're allowing to go back to the normal routine of so many games being on live broadcast, then we've got a serious issue, and that can't be the way forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm sure we'll see more of that when that comes out. But I saw that Cat Law, who's on the board, I think co-chair at Tottenham, said a few words to BBC Sport on that about, you know, the importance of, you know, accessibility there for people even just to watch it. And you know, I think we'd echo the comments from
100%.
Cat at Spurs. We've had quite a few questions asking around Amanda Stavely, and if we've spoken to her and asked her to provide further information. I think on that one, Alex, who can't be with us tonight, the chair of our trust, has spoken to her a couple of times over the last few weeks. If she wants to speak to him, she has his phone number. She knows where he is. And that, I think that's that. Thomas, I don't know if you've managed to speak to Alex this afternoon. He's been quite busy. I don't know if you have anything more on that.
We also have normal lives that we've put on hold for the last few weeks. So yeah, we're trying to get back to some sort of normality, but I you know, there's nothing else to add to that. Yeah, just what you said, Greg.
Yeah, no, excellent. So just having a scroll through the questions. So please do keep your questions coming in. Here, there's one for you, Chi, actually, around local politicians and not hearing a great deal from our, I guess, elected mayor, for example. There's a question around that. I don't know if there's anything else locally. I don't know that we can do to raise the profile, but I don't know.
Yeah, you know, that's a really good question. I mean, I know, have you, like, the local, do you mean Jamie Driscoll?
Yeah.
I saw that he put out either a letter or a statement, I can't remember, you know, saying that he supported my letter and that it wasn't an issue for the mayor, it was an issue for the Premier League and for national government. I mean, I think, you know, the issue, the question, the thing that, as you've said, Greg, you know, football is such an important part of our economy as well as our cultural identity. And this, you know, takeover, whatever you've used on it, it meant investment, and you know, and it just football matters to our economy, you know. So I think it is an issue for every elected, you know, councillor or mayor, and I do think it makes, you know, I'm not trying to give more other politicians more work, but you know, politicians care about what people write to them about and say it's important. So you know, write to people and write to MPs, write to councillors, write to, you know, to the mayor and say that this really matters. And that's all about, you know, keeping the pressure on, because I think one of the concerns is that this is just going to sort of fade away and that nothing's going to change and we're going to be in this situation of another 13 years, you know, and so yeah, you know, it is the economic link. And when there are, and these are generally Sunderland fans telling me that I shouldn't be bothering about football, you know, what I say is, you know, it's important to the economy of, as well as the mental well-being of people, it is important to the economy of our city and our region, and that is something that is my job to care about.
So on that, that's a really good point. So we put together this system for the initial letters with some help of some other organizations who know a few of the, you know, how to do these things a bit better than we do. One of the things we, you know, talk about, you know, if you've got ideas, let us know. So you mentioned there about keeping the pressure on. So if Newcastle fans out there were to write to their MP again now, what do you think they should be writing and saying? Because we've got these letters. Should they be saying, can you support Chi's petition in Parliament? Is that what they should be writing, or you know, where do we keep pushing that pressure politically?
Yeah, that's a fabulous question. And actually, there was something on social media I wanted to respond to. So I think you should be asking your MPs to, because every MP can put a petition. So every single MP could do a petition like mine. You know, they'd have to have constituents, so you can't raise issues on behalf of other constituents. But every MP with a Newcastle United constituent who cared about this could raise a similar position in Parliament. So you can write asking them to support my petition and raise it in Parliament. But there was also a really interesting question about the Select Committee, and if Richard Masters came to the Select Committee again, was he just going to sit there and say, it's a confidential process? And so I think we should also be asking, for the Select Committee to have the Premier League back, and if it's a confidential process, then let's ask about the process. Let's ask about if you can't talk about it, they should be able to talk more about it now that the process is no longer ongoing as we understand it. But then otherwise, let's talk about the process. How does it work? Who's on the board? Who's on the committee that determines this? There's lots of things that they can. There's lots of things that the Select Committee can be asking them. So I think those are the two things, raise it in Parliament and, have it in front of the Select Committee again. And also I talk about the fan-led review of football.
Yeah. Well, I think there might just be a little action in there for us to get another system going like we did a few weeks ago to get those letters out there. So that's really useful information.
That was really successful. And just to say again, as an MP, nothing concentrates MPs' minds more than having letters and emails, about an issue, because that means people care about it and they'll vote about it.
I mean, some of them were saying to us they'd never had so many emails in one day on the same subject ever. So that shows the strength of feeling. Yeah, the Newcastle fan. Just a question there from John asking, in terms of your petition. There's a certain number of signatures needed to get a debate, or to get it to a committee. So to get a debate, to automatically get a debate. I'm sorry about this because it's complicated. That's another petition. It's an E-petition on the Petitions Committee website, which I did tweet out, and that has to have 100,000 signatures. And then you automatically get a debate. But the problem is that because of COVID and the government not assigning, COVID shut down Parliament and the government didn't assign new time for petitions debates, there's a massive backlog of them. So, I mean, it would be something worth pursuing, but it could take quite a while because there hasn't been any e-petition debates. There's only been like 2 since March, and there's loads of them needed in the backlog. So, but to get a Select Committee hearing is all about the Select Committee thinking this matters to people, and that can happen without, and so it's all about showing that it matters. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So everyone sign that petition. We'll share the link again afterwards. And keep up the good work, everybody. We've got an important point here from Jinky saying that I am wearing a lovely jumper. Now, I must clarify that this is a t-shirt, not a jumper. It's still got my arms, but I'll take any compliment I can get.
You're a liar, Jinky. You can't lie.
It's normally worse. I'm not used to compliments on that.
He wears that in nearly every board meeting as well. It's horrible.
It's not true, but we'll move quickly on and see what else is coming in on the questions on the right hand side. Quite a few coming through here. So let me just take a quick look through here. What have we got? We've got lots of questions. Lots of people seemingly have saying similar things there. So here's one from Adam. Did Richard Masters say whether or not the Premier League is still in dialogue with the club regarding the takeover since the public statement that the PIF had pulled out? Did he give any clarity on that in the meeting, Thomas?
In terms of since they pulled out, I would assume so. It was mainly in reference to that throughout the process they were in discussions with the club throughout. It was the club that requested the confidentiality, hence the lack of communication from.
So Newcastle United requested the confidentiality throughout the process.
Yes. So that's who we now need to hear from as well.
Absolutely.
So I would assume so. That they say that they're constantly in regular dialogue with all the clubs. I think that would be pretty standard practice. And I dare say that since obviously now we're getting back to normal or some sort of normality with the fixtures coming out and the season coming up, I dare say discussions will be continuing. But it was stressed that there was dialogue throughout the process with the club.
that's interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, thanks for
And
that
do you know
clarification.
that Mike Ashley gets to keep the, what was it,
The
11
deposit,
million,
17 million.
17,
17 million
Important,
pounds?
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got a question here from Russ, and it's all gone very quiet from the bidders front. Do you think there's anything in terms of a statement from them? I think we've said, from our position, our position, we can keep up the pressure, and I think it's right that we keep up that political pressure that we've just talked around, and giving fans a voice, and we'll do that definitely. We're here to make that voice heard. We ran a poll at the start of this for our members, and it came out saying 97% of Newcastle fans were in favour of the takeover. And early on in this process, Newcastle fans got absolutely hammered by certain sections of the media. And, we were out there, Alex in particular, out there doing interviews almost every day saying, oh, hold on a minute. Why are you attacking football supporters here? This has nothing to do with football supporters at the moment. We don't get a say here. We want a say, but we're not getting one. So in terms of it's all gone quiet from the petition, I think we're now at a time, we do need clarity from those involved, and we can keep up a little bit of pressure, but let's be honest, what else can we do other than put that pressure on? Because, like we've said, in this world of billionaires and more, it's we can try and we will try. So do we think there's anything in terms of a statement from them? I think from our perspective, we want to hear something. Does the silence mean that something's working on in the background? It's possible. I think it was reported today in the Independent that discussions were ongoing. We have had 18 weeks of that almost. So and that was an interesting one on that point about red flags from the meeting as well, Thomas. I don't know if you could touch on that red flags point.
Yeah, it was more well, I just asked, obviously it was reported back in April that there was no red flags about the bid. When asked about that, it was basically that no assurances were made that that everything was going to be okay. So I think that's something that obviously you have to take. I dare say that's all they're going to say on the matter.
Yeah. We've got an interesting question here from Will Minting asking, do you think town planning deregulation is directly attributable to the Newcastle United shambolic board or the Premier League smoke and mirrors? Well, that's an interesting one. For those of you who don't know, some of my professional work is in planning. So, and I know Mr. Minting. So it's an interesting one. There's planning white paper out there, which I'm sure Chi will have seen as well, which is some interesting things. But on planning, symbol of where the football club has been. We led a campaign about 18 months ago, a year ago, to try and do what we can to try and block the development of Strawberry Place. And unfortunately, that went through. But we mobilised there and we tried, and I spoke at the committee hearing against that, as did Chi actually. The saddest thing there is that that's a piece of land that came with the football club when the current owner bought it. He sold it to himself, and then to sell on again for profit to a private developer. And that just comes back to us wanting all Newcastle fans just wanting a football club that can be the best it can be and strives to be the best it can be. That is a gateway piece of land. It's a site primed right in the middle of the city centre to be a link between the football club, the cathedral on the hill, and the rest of the city centre, and into Gallowgate, down Chinatown. And it's just such a missed opportunity that Chi, I know you spoke at the event, but that just symbolises what why we need a change in ownership, really.
I was going to add to that, because I think that's absolutely right. And the more I actually had the House of Commons library. Again, as an MP, you've got the House of Commons got a library with lots of researchers, and trying to go through the different companies' accounts. Mike Ashley, Sports Holding, this year, there's all the companies that we couldn't really figure out what they were doing, but had taken money or whatever, to try and understand where the money was going to for that land. And it was still really impossible. It was impossible, basically, because also not all the accounts had been filed at the right time. But my point, the other point on that is, that where else would it happen that such an incredibly important cultural asset for our city, that bits of it could be stripped off, and without any real scrutiny or transparency. So sorry, there's just back to the, we need scrutiny and transparency.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And talking of scrutiny and transparency, there's a couple of questions coming in asking about where the trust's money is, which is always an interesting question coming in. A couple of people have asked that. Well, I can tell you where the trust's money is. It's in our bank account. The trust is
personal one.
Not our personal ones. No. Absolutely not. We don't. We're volunteers. We give our time for absolutely nothing, no expenses or anything. But it's an important point actually that the trust is a formally structured organization. We are appointed, myself, Thomas, and the other members of the board as directors of that organization. It's a registered community benefit society with rules on how we have to operate, and we have to be democratic, we have to be transparent. And our accounts are audited and published, and they're submitted to the Financial Conduct Authority. So the money is very much in the trust bank account. We are a proper democratic organization. We aren't just a group that's come together or anything like that. And if you don't like the trust, if you don't like me, or you don't like what Thomas is doing, we'll be having elections again this year like we did last year. Put your name forward, democratic process. You can't beat it. Get yourself elected and come and help drive forward the voice of the fans. We've got 14,000 members now, and we're really starting to build a really good movement here. It's a bit like a union, the more members you have, the greater the voice that you can have. And I think, we will never apologize for pushing for more membership, because, Thomas goes and speaks to the Premier League on Wednesday on behalf of 14,000 members. If that was 400, would we even have had a seat at the table when we're asked to talk about the takeover? Probably not. So, we'll never apologize for pushing for that. We as a board, since we've come together, we've tried to make the trust accessible to everybody. That's why we've knocked the membership down to just £1. It's £1 to join for your share in the trust, and then it's a £1 membership every year. So, if you're a member, great, we're great to have you on board. If you're not, tell your brother, sister, auntie, uncle, friend, neighbor, better not go much further, we'll be into cats and dogs. But yeah, it'd be great to have as many people on board as possible, because it's all about having a voice for the fans. And I'm passionate about that. That's why I got involved. I've been going to Newcastle games for a very long time now, and I did get rid of my season ticket because I was a little bit unhappy with Mr. Ashley. But I've done my time. And yeah, so yeah, that's a bit of a rant from me really. But yeah, Thomas, anything to add on my I got a bit carried away there, didn't I?
Just a little bit. No, nothing much to add on that, mate. It's in terms of where the money is, it's safe. It's there for whoever wants to come onto the board to use and decide in the future what we should do with it. And it must be said, there's running costs as well. With the trust, it's not free to send 14,000 emails out. There is running costs as well. So it is safe. It's there. You can check it. It's on the website. I'm just going to be a bit personal here. So it's getting a bit of a boring question now, to be honest.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it is. So yeah. So let's have a look at the questions then coming in here. It's always nice to see people say we're doing a good job. We represent our members, and that's what we're here for. So, any feedback on that is very welcome. And on that point, actually, we talked about building a more effective trust, and I think Thomas and I and others on the board will agree. We need to, we don't have the answers. We're just the people who have agreed to give up our time and put our names forward. But if you can help us, if you've got a skill, get in touch. We want to hear from you. A couple of the guys who put their hats forward already so far, the reason why we're doing this live StreamYard thing tonight, I wouldn't know how to do this, but some of the guys from some of the other Newcastle social media type channels have put forward their skills and have helped us set this up tonight. I would say who it is, but I can't remember, and I don't want to get it wrong. And give the wrong people, so we'll leave that one there. But on that, we launched our council idea about 2 weeks ago now, or I think it was, which is basically we've asked 14,000 members what a wide range of skills we must have amongst our members, and to try and build that more effective organization. How can we make the most of them rather than us as a board of 6 or 7 sitting there, doing everything we can in all of our spare time? But how can we really build a more effective organization? So The council is to get those skills and get you all involved and help us build the organization. Application deadline is tonight. We've had over 160 people put their hat in the ring to help us really build and grow, and that really shows that we really are building a proper fan-led movement here. That, you know, who knows what's next as we keep building it in terms of that, in terms of the influence and trying to get that better say for supporters. So yeah, the council information is on our website. It's on our social media if you do have time. So if you have put your name forward, yeah, the deadline isn't for until tonight, so you probably wouldn't have heard from us yet, but we'll go through all of those and get back to you as soon as we can.
Greg,
yeah.
I'm afraid I've got to go now. I've got to go to something else. But
yes.
Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity, and yeah.
No, well, thank you for coming on, and thanks for standing up for Newcastle fans as always.
It's
thanks,
what I love doing. All right, bye-bye. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, that video goes a bit wider. All right, let's have a look into the questions again. I think we've got about 15 minutes left, Thomas. So let's have a look. So here we go. We've got a question here from Andy. Did Masters of the Premier League provide any clarity or information in respect of the management model or strategy which was being proposed and why it didn't pass?
Not really. Again, hidden behind the confidentiality of the process. Did Masters? They basically highlighted that they believed, you know, that the majority of it was straightforward, but they believed there was potentially other people, or they believed there was other people who were going to have control other than those that were listed on the forms. That was pretty much the only thing said on that, again, hidden by the confidentiality of how much you can actually go into. So in terms of why it didn't pass, it got to the stage where it was at. They offered the offer of arbitration came up, which then shortly after PIF withdrew. Yeah,
I think that's fair enough. We've got a question here from Frank Clark, and I'm obviously at my age, I don't remember Frank Clark as a player, but I'm wondering if this is actually Frank Clark. I think my father knows Frank Clark.
My father knows Frank Clark.
Anyway, wondering whether the Premier League has spoken about stably and arbitration, and surely that happened when it wasn't rejected. And I think from what the feedback was, that the arbitration offer was on that one specific point where they said they weren't satisfied, and they offered some sort of arbitration. Did that come up in the meeting, Thomas?
Sorry, Greg, you broke up a little bit there, mate. Can you say that again?
Well, it's on.
That's my headphones.
Yeah, it was whether or not the Premier League spoke in the meeting about, I guess, you know, why they offered arbitration when they haven't actually rejected the deal. And I think it was on that. Was it on that one specific point? And did they, that you talked about before, did they actually say anything on that on Wednesday?
So basically, it was just that they'd come to the stage where they didn't believe that the people that were going to be, you know, controlling the club were the actual ones controlling the club. They believed there was other people. So that was obviously disagreed with, and the offer of arbitration was put out, which was then obviously rejected because they withdrew. I take from that personally, not that this much was said, but I take from that obviously rather than failing it there and then, they've almost extended an olive branch maybe. It's the only way of this potentially going forward. Whether that's the case or not, it wasn't. It again, only so much detail he would go into, but that's the way I sort of see that. And you know that they've turned it down effectively by just withdrawing.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Yeah, so we'll see what comes of it. Obviously, we're you know, we're not hearing a great deal in the media as we were before, but then we've heard today that it might be positive noises, so that's good. We've got a comment here about Alex being an exceptional communicator, and I'm sure we'll feed back there to him, and him needing to put himself out there more, or he becomes a podcast hologram. So I think we'll feed that one back to Alex. I think there's a really interesting point here actually about us and as a trust, and if anyone's got ideas on how we can build this, is to how do we take the message offline? How do we get the
Mhm.
message of the work that the trust's doing, you know, and you know, building forward? How do we get that message off Twitter, off Facebook, which is, you know, a very noisy place, and we'll have our say there. But you know, how, you know, not every Newcastle fan is on Twitter, not every Newcastle fan is on Facebook, and I think it's a real challenge for us as an organisation is to get that message out there. So yeah, any ideas, please do, please do feed them in.
I would add to that. You know, I've been very conscious of this myself, and obviously it's very difficult to go out and meet people right now. But it's definitely something that we do want to hear about. Me personally as well. You know, we do not just fight on behalf of takeovers. You know, ticketing's a big thing as well for me personally. You know, the last meeting I actually had with the Premier League in June then led to the ticket refunds eventually from the club. You know, ticketing's a big thing which affects match-going fans, and not all match-going fans, as Greg has touched on, are on Twitter. So absolutely, any ideas as to how we can reach out a little bit more to people would be very much welcomed.
Yeah. So yeah, that's absolutely, couldn't agree more, Thomas. And I think, you know, one of the key points that came out there was, from all of this, you know, Newcastle United still have a football season to prepare for in a couple of weeks' time as well. And
aren't we all looking forward to that?
We've been left, you know, these delays, you know, we all thought would be in a very different position right now, and we have been as a fan base left in the lurch. But you know, the football club's been left in the lurch. Steve Bruce, you know, whatever you think of him, you know, was calling for clarity in June, and we're still, you know, we are where we are. So you know, it's going to be an interesting season ahead. But you know, it's time for Newcastle United to communicate, but I won't hold my breath on that coming properly, given how long we've been waiting for that meaningful dialogue on that, in that sense. And then I guess, yeah, just a question to you, Thomas, really, as we, you know, we'll still take a few more questions if they're coming in. But what do you think are the next steps really for the trust in terms of moving forward now? There's other stuff going on as well, but you know, also just in terms of where we've landed here after that meeting with Richard Masters.
Yeah, I think, you know, this was a big step. This was huge for the trust, for the Newcastle fans as a whole, to get in the room. And I would love to be able to draw a line under it. I dare say we won't be able to, you know, because the power is now in control. It's with other people now. In my opinion, you know, I think we've excelled ourselves as a fan base to really make our point here, and I really hope the ones with the power now start to take control. In terms of other things that are going on, you know, the club should be in the planning stages for the return of fans to games. We've requested that the club, you know, use us as a trust to in that planning stage, you know, make sure fans are included in this, because fans should be included in this, because this is who it affects. As yet, communication is an issue with Newcastle once again. That was raised with the Premier League the other day, which the Premier League will be taking forward as the best practice, you know, things they've heard from, good things they've heard from other clubs, and clubs that aren't doing anything, i.e. Newcastle United, in terms of communicating with their fans on this. So that's something that we're going to be pushing. You know, ticketing is going to be a big thing as to who gets to go. You know, that's going to be massive.
Yeah, how do you think that'll work? If you've got socially distanced crowds, how do they choose who's going to go?
I really don't know. It's going to be on a club by club basis. That's the impression that I've got now. So there's not going to be a league wide agreement as to how they decide who goes. It's going to be based on each club's ticketing system, each club's you know, loyalty point system, or you know, membership schemes, whatever they've got. So ours is, for me, and this is in defence of, and I'm not saying this just because I'm on this 10-year deal. For me, you've got, we don't know what the exact number is, but we have some fans who have already paid for next season. So, you know, for me, I think that's probably a place to start. You know, we'll just have to see whether no system's going to be fair. I think that's the way to look at it. You know, there's going to be people disappointed throughout this whole thing. And I think that's why the club need to liaise with fans as to the fairest way forward here, because we've seen with the ticket refunds, it's my personal view that I don't want to be harsh on the people in the box office here, but it's not really the people in the box office. It's just what they've got to deal with, that we're not capable of putting a system together that is individual to our football club. I'm fearful that it'll be copied from another club. Well,
I think, you know, I'd be, you know, be fearful, you know, having been involved in this world for a little bit of time with you now, Thomas. You know, I'm going to say I quite often feel sorry for some of the people who work at Newcastle United.
Yeah,
Newcastle United, as a staff base for its multi-million pound operation, has around about the same number of employees as Leyton Orient.
Mm-hmm.
It has less than half the employees of most other Premier League clubs. It operates on a skeleton. The governance isn't there. There isn't a board. It has one director. Its corporate structure and its corporate governance is non-existent. It is not run in the way you should run a multi-million pound business. So, the decision making is slow at times. What is the role of some of the, some people in there who aren't actually employees of the club, who are clearly, there and needing to run decisions by, we're seeing. And on that, we've just got a question in, actually, do we have any sort of dialogue from Chris with Mike Ashley? And the answer really is no. I think we have some dialogue, albeit difficult and constrained through Lee Marshall and a little bit with Lee Charnley, but not much. I think I don't know, Thomas, if you want to say anything on that. We made an offer. We did contact the club and say, look, if there's anything that we and the fans can do to help you sell this football club, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Chris Graham, by the way. Hi, Chris. I go to away games with Chris. Yeah, unfortunately not. They don't want to talk to us. It's been really, really difficult to try and get any sort of information out of them about this whole process. Throughout, especially with regards to the ticket and refunds, they were, the information was always just, there's no news. So we have a word with the Premier League. They have a conversation. All of a sudden, there's news. But in terms of, you're right, Greg. We've made the offer. Whether we'll hear anything back, who knows?
Yeah. So that offer definitely still stands. Got a few comments here saying that Sunderland are very good at social distancing. I think we can all agree on that one. Do other supporters trust that the Premier League meeting give any kind of support to the takeover? I know Alex contacted a few of them, and I think it's a difficult one, that, because this is a very personal situation in Newcastle United. Thomas, I don't know if did anyone else say anything in that agenda item?
No, they didn't. I wasn't expecting them to either, in all honesty. I think we would have the backing of every single supporters trust in the Premier League, and probably across the 92 and beyond, that there should be transparency, or more transparency than what there's been. I don't think we'd see any comeback to that from other clubs. I think the difficulty with other clubs is that they're not as ingrained in this whole situation as what we are. They don't understand it as much as what we do. They don't care. Which, I think that's probably a fair comment to make. I don't pay that much attention to what's going on at other football clubs. So no, they didn't. Obviously, Kevin Miles was there as well, who's the chief executive of the Football Supporters Association, who's also a Newcastle fan as well. So there was probably enough support there from Newcastle. Yeah,
there's a question there from James saying, has the FSA been involved with the takeover? And was this the reason you got the chance, I guess? Thomas, I don't know if you want to say anything on that one.
No, it's not their place to say at all. The FSA can't get involved, and like I say, Kev Miles, the chief executive, is a Newcastle fan. So I dare say that if there was to be some involvement, they might be pushing it in one direction. But no, they can't. They physically can't. And in terms of, was this the reason I spoke to Richard Masters? The FSA were big in getting us in front of them because they realised how big of a topic this was. This was probably one of the biggest topics in English football. So I think they realised the significance of it, and that's why it was included on the agendas.
Got an important one to finish on, I think, or maybe one or two. How's the bacon, Thomas?
Johnny's from the Flags. Obviously, I'm in more Flags for people that don't know, and I help out. And I actually drove with Johnny to Poland to pick up that massive flag, and I'll be having words with him after this.
Yeah. Well, to end on a lighter note, I can't sing. I am not Ed Sheeran. I don't know if you remember a few years ago, Ed Sheeran was in Shearer's box at St James's Park, and it was on Match of the Day. And I remember I was out in town that night, and my phone went absolutely mental. And but no, I wish I had his bank balance. I can't sing, but no. I think we've reached the hour now. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's logged on and joined and had a listen to us today and tried to answer as many of your questions as you can. And thanks to Chi as well for coming on and talking about her petition. So we'll take that one away and have a chat with the board about what we can do to push that petition and what we can do about the advice Chi gave us there around keeping the pressure on politically. Thought that was really, really useful advice. So definitely. Just to re-emphasize my my point there around, we're trying to build, we are building, a stronger trust and a stronger voice. So, if you're not a member, please do join. We've reduced the membership so that we can be that big, strong voice, that union. And if you don't like what we're doing, stand for election, come and join us and help us really drive things forward. I think it's testament to the hard work of every Newcastle fan, but also you in particular, Thomas, getting in front of Richard Masters on Wednesday, getting the Premier League to draw a comment when they clearly had no intention of commenting until all of this went on is, testament to the voice and the strength of Newcastle fans when we all pull together in that one direction. So yeah, over to you, Thomas. I'll let you finalize with the final say.
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you really to everyone who sent messages of support. It's been obviously a massive few weeks for the trust. It's been tiring. I think me and Greg are both looking forward to getting back and spending time with our loved ones. My fiance doesn't know who I am anymore. I've been constantly spending my time on my phone. So I'm looking forward to just getting back to hopefully calming down slightly, but realizing obviously there's still work to be done. But yeah, thank you for all of the messages, and I echo what Greg has just said. The trust is for the fans. It's a very, very important thing. I know it's a drum that we beat quite constantly, but it is very, very important, and for reasons like this. And I would just like to think that there are more people out there who want to get involved and can just grow this into one of the greatest things that is part of Newcastle United. Absolutely,
and we are just the custodians right now. There's been some work done. In the past. The trust was set up, was it 11 years ago? There's been some really good work going on there.
Yeah, some great people.
Some great people involved in the trust in the past, and some great work that still goes on by those people in the community. So, let's keep going. We're the custodians here and now. It could be you in the future helping stand up for your fellow fans, because at the end of the day, we're all just Newcastle fans and we just want the best for Newcastle United. Thank you and good night. Cheers, everyone.